let's start again. That was not a good start. Hi everyone, my name is Diana. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the challenges and the ways to convince yourself to create something of your own. Basically, if you are approaching midlife or at midlife like me, and you'd like to stop trading your time for money, to stop being in paid employment and give it a shot, see if you can create something of your own. I know it's trendy, everybody wants to be a YouTuber, a TikToker, an entrepreneur, and if you are a millennial like me, that word alone makes you cringe, because you're like, that's not the best way someone can contribute to the society. But if you're anything like me, it just becomes harder and harder to imagine yourself in paid employment for another 25 years. I think it is roughly over 25 years until I can retire. So if it was a bit closer to the retirement, which is in sight, which sadly gets pushed back and back and back, and I understand the reasons behind it, it needs to happen. You know, longevity is a wonderful thing, but it's just daunting to think that I would have to turn up to work 4 or 5 days a week. Also, I've always worked jobs that are really, really demanding, both physically and emotionally. I think I must have some ADHD traits. I've never been diagnosed. I just I can't do an office job. I've not been laid off from an office job. I do them quite well when I do them, but I will quit them on a whim because I feel trapped when I have to sit in an office environment. So I've always done jobs that are managerial, on your feet, quite highly demanding, presentations, you know, engaging with customers, that kind of thing. And it is draining, and the older you get, you know, now that I've hit my 40s, I can't see myself doing that kind of thing for another 20 years. So I have tried to set up a couple of side hustles in the past, you know, when there was that whole boom of print on demand stuff. To be fair with you, it never felt right. I felt like everyone was doing the same thing and just kind of riding that initial wave until the industry got oversaturated. It's the same thing that happened with stock photography a while ago. If you were one of the people who were there at the very beginning, I think Peter McKinnon said he made like a lot of money with just like this not very special picture of a heap of fallen leaves, because the market was not saturated. If someone needed a picture of leaves, they would go on Shutterstock, or I don't know when Adobe started as well, and just get a license for your picture and you'll get some royalties for that. And I think it must have been the same with print on demand things like low, medium content things and journals and planners. And there's that lovely lady called Nuria Corby who mentors everyone on YouTube about how to be your own boss and a working woman from home. But these industries, they are not long-term solutions. And like with Shutterstock, I know that when I started, I had a month when I made £75, and it's not much, but it was one of my first months, and I'd really put the work in. I was uploading consistently. I was taking pictures at rallies and demonstrations, and some of them got published in newspapers, which was great. And I love that fact to this day, that there's pictures of me published in, I think one made it to The Guardian or something, which is like my badge of honor, because they have to credit you if it is editorial content. And that's great, but then I kind of stopped massaging the algorithm. I had a very demanding teaching / theatre job at the time, and I just could not take enough pictures and upload them, and I think I kind of dropped off the algorithm, and it was really hard to get back into it. And now I think I get a payout for 1,000 plus images I have on there. I think I get a payout maybe once every 3 or 4 months. I'll get those $25 or whatever the minimum amount is. And with Amazon KDP, I did jump on that wagon of scrapbook paper, plan journals, yoga journals, stuff like that. It gave me a lot in the sense that I love that I learned how to do these graphic design things, how to create a notebook, how to create a composition book, planners, how to put a document together, a printable book, or a document in Canva. It taught me a lot about Canva, but again, after a while, it started feeling like it was just a thing of numbers. I literally run out of ideas. I was like, what other journal or scrapbook paper, notepad can I create? And it became technical rather than creative, and I didn't want to just keep mass producing things, knowing that there's thousands of other people in the world also mass producing these things, and we're just competing against each other, and then giving a large portion of that to Amazon for things that get printed, and also through ads. Everyone has picked up on the fact that lately, in order to get any sales at all, you had to ramp your ads up quite a lot. And I felt like the ads, it was strange, and many people had noticed it, that it wasn't that the ads themselves necessarily converted and translated into sales. It just, again, somehow massaged the algorithm. It felt like the algorithm, the whole Amazon algorithm knew that you were a good contractor or a client, that you would run the ads, and therefore they will help you with your account even if the ads don't lead to actual sales. I don't know, that's just a speculation. That's what it felt like, and I know that other people have felt it as well. So it's almost like you've been love bombed at first into getting into this business, and then the returns are getting lower and lower, and you're more and more reliant on Amazon. So I know there was a month when I think I made about £500 in sales, not in profit. I'd run ads, and then that number kept going down and down, and the ads expenses kept going up and up. And I've seen lately that people who used to do this and were very excited about being able to be on track to being self-employed and made their income report videos, they've stopped doing that because the sales were either going down or stagnating. So those are the couple of things. Stock photography and print on demand, also on Redbubble, is just a couple of things that I've tried with that intention in mind, to hopefully create something that can support me and sustain me. And very, very sadly, it was a bit of a shock that my KDP account got terminated in May, so just about a month ago. I know I was on a wonderful day out with my family, and I got the notification. And I got into a bit of a back and forth with Amazon. There was a slight thing I'd overlooked, but it wasn't that big of a mistake. And I see that other people's accounts get terminated as well. And if I'd wanted to, I know there's many steps that I could take. They say it takes a lot of time because it is all run by bots. There's if you want a person the other end, you need to like email whoever the CEO of Amazon is now, after Jeff Bezos, Andy something, and I was like, no, I think this is actually a blessing in disguise. Sad as it felt to like miss out and lose those 200 extra pounds a month, which, you know, the cost of living is high, every little helps, but I really felt that this is meant to redirect me to build something that is meaningful and personal, and where the collapse of a system cannot take it away from me, right? Like if a platform collapses, or if a platform misunderstands me and thinks I've made a mistake, the name or the actual value of it stays. And then I thought, oh, what's been taken away from me? There are a couple of those medium content books that I was like, I wish I knew where the copies of them are now. Maybe I could try and self-publish them elsewhere. But at the end of the day, there wasn't a single piece that I'd created where I was like, I can't believe I've lost that. So it was more, the focus was more on creating it for the market rather than creating it from a place of self-fulfillment and self-realization, if that makes sense at all. So this New Year's, I did what many people, at least in Scotland, did. I don't know if it was a universal thing. I think many people around the world did it. There's a lady in Glasgow called that Glasgow Witch, and she started this movement where you write 13 wishes down on pieces of paper, and then you burn them one by one, I think starting New Year's, and then the last wish you don't burn. That is your own job. So the rest of them will be taken care of by the universe, but that one last one, you have to look after it. And the one that I kept, the one that is my job, was a very creative thing. And I started to think that actually I'm going to have to find a way to fit that in my schedule. And then thinking further on it, I was like, I have been in this daydreaming mode, you know, for the better part of my life, where I like thinking about how things are going to be once I've written that book, once I started that business, once I am my own boss, once I have more time, once I can afford to travel and spend as much time as I want with my family. And something happens when you enter your 40s, you know, 40s is a new 30s and all of that, and that's great. And I am comfortable with my age. However, you do become more and more aware of time, and that, you know, that J.R.R. Tolkien quote about, you know, all you need to decide is what to do with the time that's been given you. And you suddenly not only feel protective of the time, you feel responsible for it as well. What is the highest purpose that I can do with it? And that kind of leads you to that Japanese notion of ikigai, where I've got my book. So I bought this book to start my Project 150, which I haven't told you yet about, but I will refer to what I've written down here. So the 4 areas that have to overlap in order to find the thing which is your highest calling, the best way you can put yourself to use and serve the world, is these 4 things need to overlap: passions, your talents, your sense of contribution, and financial needs. So it needs to be something that you are passionate about. So I'm trying to think about the things that I did off the cuff as a child, if I had free time. What were the things that really excited me, that I could do for hours and no one needed to tell me to do that? Something that is a natural expression of me. And that definitely is 2 things, and they are the 2 things that I've had most impact on people by doing, if that makes sense at all. So I've not made a lot of money with them, either of these 2 things, but whenever I've created something, I've always had feedback from people that the results have moved people in certain ways. So they are writing and photography. And writing in particular, that is like a completely neglected child of mine, and I know why that is, and I may speak about it maybe in a later video, because I have very mixed feelings about writing. I have this block, if you like, but whenever I've gotten myself to write, I know that the moment that stuck with me the most is I'd written a short piece and it was staged in this new writing event, and I got a lot of great feedback for it. But this one lady came up to me and she said, "Did you write that?" Because I was the writer, I was sat in the audience, so she kind of got the gist. She caught the wind that was who wrote it, and she came up to me and said, "Did you write it?" And I was like, "Yes." And she said, "Can I give you a hug?" So I'm getting a bit emotional now. So I was so aware that something had resonated and that I had managed to use my words in a way that unlocked something or evoked something in a person. And I kind of celebrated it for a day and then went back to doing nothing. Not doing nothing, doing my day job, hustling and grinding, making money to pay the bills, and being like, okay, I've done that, so now I can, you know, not go anywhere near writing for the next 6 years, and when I feel like it again, I can do it. But that's not quite how it works. So the New Year's wish I was left with was to write something. And the other thing that I always have loved to do is photography. And that was back in the day when there was only film photography. I know that when digital cameras became available, we got this tiny one, and I was in my late teens. And I think that must have been a huge financial relief on my family to be able to have that camera, because up to that point, I would just take pictures of everything with the film camera, and then we would have to develop it and make the pictures and buy new film. So that was an expensive, for my family, that was an expensive pleasure of mine, but I loved it so much. I created photo shoots and just took pictures of things that I thought were aesthetically pleasing or interesting, or where the light was great. And speaking of that, I know that the one person who I think is my dream inspiration. I didn't know her back then, but someone who's made a living of it and has made a career of it on social media is Courtney Halverson. She's an actor as well and a photographer. And I read it somewhere that even since she was a kid, she did all these artsy photo shoots, fashiony, artsy, atmospheric. And there was a post of hers where she said how important it is how the light falls, you know, things like golden hour, evening light, shadows, things like that. So not technically perfect photography, just very atmospheric. And I commented on her post saying, I remember being kind of slightly bullied by one of my friends for whenever I said, oh, the light is beautiful today. She was like, yeah, light, what does that even mean? And I remember feeling very inadequate for having said that. And now I can look up to someone who has realized and implemented that eye, that look, that attitude and passion for imagery to the level that Courtney has. And once we get to actually talking about the brand I want to create, the thing I want to create, I've set it up on Instagram, TikTok and YouTube. And I only have 10 followers so far. Had 11, one dropped off. That's okay. Probably wasn't a genuine one anyway. And the fourth or the fifth person that followed me was Courtney Halverson. And I went to check. I thought this must be a glitch or this must be like an impersonator. But there was a blue tick next to it, and every day I go and I check and it's like, has Courtney unfollowed me? Was that a glitch or a mistake? And I only had about 7 or 8 pictures up at that point. I had a brief, I think she asked for book recommendations, and I said you should read Cloisters by Katie Hayes because you'd enjoy it. It's so atmospheric. And she replied saying, oh yeah, Cloisters is on my list. And after that, at some point, I just saw Courtney's followed me. So amongst those 7 or 8 photographs, there must have been something that caught her eye, or what I said caught her eye, and I was like, this is a sign. I don't know if this is going to amount to anything, but I'm going to persevere with this thing I've started. So, to the point. The reason I'm doing this is I'm going to do a project that I myself have called 150 days. It's not like all those 70 hard, you know, for the last few days of the year, you're just going to chip away at your ambitions. You're going to be very healthy on a health kick and this and that. I am going to do the best I can to build habits and practices and be consistent with building, let's say, a brand. That was one of my New Year's promises to myself, apart from the one I got amongst those 13 wishes, is that I want to build a personal brand. And I think the sad experience with Amazon just confirmed that to me. I want the brand to speak for itself and not be reliant on any platform. I will use the platforms to promote it, to build brand awareness, but I don't want it to be tied exclusively to any platform at all. So on the day when I decided I was going to do 150 days, I was inspired by a lady whose YouTube channel is called Hard Breathings. I can't remember her name, I'm so sorry. And she's doing a project 180 days with the same purpose, to kind of build habits and actively do things that she's been putting off for too long. So for that reason, I went and spent way too much money on a notebook. I bought, or what you call it, it's a lovely German brand that's not Moleskine. I wanted a Moleskine notebook, but I couldn't see them. I couldn't find one that's this thick and lined. So I got that from the one that starts with L, you know, Lectorum? No, that's not how you pronounce it. Anyway, I got that, and this is where I'm going to document and write everything. It's my Project 150 notebook, and I'm just going to do a lot of journaling, write down to-do lists, write down what's happened, so I have a little tally of how the brand is growing. So the brand, I don't like calling it a brand, it's such a cringy name. It is a thing, okay. I started something in the beginning of the year which was just me. I called it Realm of Another Kind. That's my Instagram account, not the personal one, but I wanted it to be a bit more like polished, a little bit thought through. But I think, you know, annoying as it sounds, that you have to have quite a narrow niche, I was like, I'm gonna go against niches. I am this, you know, universal general thing. I can't just post about one thing, that's cringe. So I started doing that, and it's really true. It was really hard to, for the algorithm. I could feel how the algorithm had no idea who to put my content in front of, because it's about anything and nothing and everything. So I've connected with some really lovely people through that account, especially ladies who are living in Scotland, midlife ladies who are doing fashion over 40, 50, 60. And eventually I might want to do collaborations with them, maybe do photo shoots for them, establish myself as a lifestyle photographer. That is still on the cards. But recently I realized that maybe I need to leverage on something that is a bit more readily accessible, something that has a bit more of a niche to it. So I have the pleasure and the joy to work and live near one of the most loved cities in the world, Edinburgh. People love Edinburgh. They dream about moving to it, traveling to it. It's got this incredible charm. It's so diverse as well. There's the old town with its medieval buildings, and then the new town with the Georgian buildings. There's Victorian areas. It's just this inexhaustible source of inspiration and content. So I've seen that a couple of people have managed to leverage their access to this city. There's photographers, there's content creators, and I've personally met a couple of them. It is quite a small city. It's only about, I think, 500,000 people. So the pool of people who live here is quite small. But content about Edinburgh is not aimed at people from Edinburgh exclusively. People all over the world love it. People have ancestry here. People are planning their trips here. So I would like to start with that. And I have established a page which is on YouTube, Instagram and TikTok called Edinburgh Reverie, because I want to really use that thing that I spoke of when I spoke of Courtney Halverson. I want to make it atmospheric. I mean, Edinburgh is inherently atmospheric. It's such a beautiful city. You can't take a random shot of it and not make it, you know, speak something. However, I find that a lot of the content that is out there is quite gothic. It's beautiful, but it's gothic, it's rainy, it's moody, it's books and coffee and that kind of stuff. And I think I will also take pictures of those things. However, I want to introduce a little bit of softness into Edinburgh. There's a lot of softness here. It's a very mellow town. It has these maybe harsh looking, you know, buildings, those gothic, neo-gothic spires, but it is very, very cuddly and cute in its way, especially if you connect it with compare it to Glasgow, which is amazing in its own way, in its own right. But I would like to bring out like more of a feminine, atmospheric side of Edinburgh out in my content. And we'll see, you know, the thing is, once you start creating, what you thought you were going to create is going to change as well, because you learn as you go. And I just saw a post on Instagram of a photographer who is telling her story about how initially she thought that a beautiful building was enough of a subject for a photograph, and then she learned symmetry, and then she learned how to look at people closely, and she can feel that journey of hers over almost a decade. And I've been on my photography journey on and off. I've taken pictures, but I think giving myself permission to not overthink the theme. The theme is there. Now take the theme and just create is very, very liberating for me. Before I started the day job that I have now, which, having said all those things about how I don't want to do a day job, it's hard and tedious, it's true. My health is not what it used to be. My stamina is not what it used to be. The thought of doing a similar job for 20 other more years is mad. However, as jobs go, my current job is really nice. It is quite demanding, and you have to speak in front of people every day, which is, for an introvert, which I don't come across as, but I am, is quite exhausting. But before I started this job, the other job that I nearly got was at an art gallery. And at the interview, I said to the man interviewing me, I said, the this is a very difficult question. I think he asked me to comment on my skills and assets and all of that, and I said I'm very good at promoting other people and their ideas. I'm really bad at doing that for myself. So giving myself Edinburgh as this thing I'm going to promote and show people is almost liberating, because then it doesn't have to be about me and I won't feel as cringe, hopefully. I think I will show my face on a couple of occasions, but this channel is more like where I'll show my face because I'm really not comfortable with it. I blink a lot, it's a stain, and my face makes all kinds of weird things, but I hope I'm amongst friends here. So yeah, I'm going to do this thing. If I have the energy and time, I will do a Substack publication as well on Edinburgh, and try not to overthink it, just write about what I see and what happens here and inspire people who, I think it's a Charlotte Bronte quote, that he who has seen Edinburgh has to always think about it and see it, whether in reality or it's waking dreams or something like that. So that's what I'm doing. What I've realized since I started, so I'm on day 7 or 8 now, I think, and it's not been easy, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy. If it had been, I would not have, I would have been able to follow through with all the previous creative projects I've started. I have hit a bit of like a slump, if you like. It's that moment where you have to keep putting work in and there's no instant reward. You will get the odd follower here and there and people will see your reel. But the last reel I posted, I spent like a good hour in Edinburgh filming, then another good hour or more editing. And that's not a lot of time, but to take that out of an already busy week is quite hard. And that's the main thing I've come to terms with, is that it's going to be a job. It's going to be like holding 2 jobs for as long as I have to keep my day job for income, if that makes sense. Because in my mind, in those daydreams, I think I've always thought, oh, this is a side hustle. This is a pleasant thing. This is something I actually enjoy. And that's true, but it's still work. And the goal is to have this as work as opposed to anything else. It's just that this can't be work yet because it will take a while for it to become monetizable, if that makes sense. It needs that time of being built. And I am as confused as the next girl about all these strategies and social media. You know, I can tell that I'm not the central generation anymore. I am feeling like an old granny when it comes to, you know, the strategies that change every week, that you have to watch a reel about TikTok growth and then scroll down and comment on it and sit through it and watch the next one, and then you have to put like things in your TikTok shopping cart to get the algorithm thing that you are going to shop as a creator, and that will get the algorithm predisposed towards you favorably. And it's a lot. Like, there's all those people whose business it is to tell you how to grow your business, and that's overwhelming. And when I have the time, I am going to listen to all of that and try and educate myself. But for now, I think something that I've failed to do so far, I will just be consistent for at least 150 days. In the long run, I'm giving myself 2 years, almost 2 years, until December 2028. And if it will not have amounted to anything, I'll probably cry, and then I will be like, okay, I guess I will have to be in paid employment for the rest of my days, but maybe let's find something where I can sit down, even though it makes my skin crawl to think that I would have to sit for 8 hours in an office every day. But I will just not be able to do the physical work I'm doing now for that much longer. So we'll see. For now, fingers crossed, Edinburgh Reverie, a dreamy, atmospheric content, exploring Edinburgh, exploring events in Edinburgh, exhibitions, art, everything from a very dreamy perspective, if you like, hence Reverie. And I hope it leads to something. I certainly don't want to be someone who relies purely on UGC. You can see a lot of people who are just creating user-generated content, oftentimes of like competitor brands. If you go to their page, You can see that they're just being sent package after package, and they, I don't know, they're just PR gifts as they are called, or they get paid something to promote them. And that just doesn't feel rooted in integrity. Also, people who are fashion influencers, especially fast fashion. There is one brand that I follow, and they will remain unnamed because I don't want to be mean. But this woman receives like 5 pairs of shoes every week. And even if she just, and she makes people believe that she's keeping them, that she's bought them and she's keeping them. What I believe is happening is that she receives them as PR gifts, then maybe sells them on and gets other people to sell them through her affiliate links, which then brings her some royalties. But I'm thinking that is I would not be okay with promoting something that is so detrimental to the planet, to our ethos. We need to go the opposite way. And I know that people who are creating content around themes like sustainability, they are stuck because they've done their share, they have their following, they maybe created a product like a book about sustainability, but that's it, that's a dead end. Like, it does look like the only people who are definitely making money are people who are promoting products, like random products, and obviously people who who own the companies. I was going to say people who make them, not even people who make them. It's the top dog that makes the money, and then the influencer. And it's kind of sad, and I hate the word influencer. I'd like to think that I'm going to be a creator, smug as that may sound, and with the hope that one day it translates into some kind of income. For now, it's just going to be a creative outlet. Let's see if that's inspiring enough to keep chipping away at it. What the hell is going on? Okay, I have forced myself to do a sitty downy video. It probably came across how self-conscious I was throughout all of this. I hate looking at my own face. I hate hearing my own voice, and now I'm gonna have to sit down and edit it, and if I can, make another one soon. And hopefully I will be more relaxed, more casual in that video, and tell you how it's going. And if we go we go to places, to Edinburgh, I will tell you how that's going as well. And if you would like to see more of that content, then the channel is live already. I think I've got one short video posted on there. It's called, the channel is called Edinburgh Reverie, so it's at Edinburgh Reverie, and you should be able to find it. And I will hopefully keep posting and keep doing these as well, because that's what they say you should do, make yapping videos. Oh my god, I hate all this terminology. So if you talk at the camera, that's called a yapping video. I'm old and cranky. I don't like any of it. Bring back the manners. It's fine though. Everything is lovely, and I'm really grateful that there is a medium where you can just sit down and share what's going on with other people. And who knows what this channel's going to turn into. Initially, I thought it was just going to be me talking about my life in Scotland, and maybe one day I'll show you the tiny flat. It's so tiny though, but I've done a good job. I've got it set up. It's a bit of a trek to go into Edinburgh 4 or 5 days a week, to be fair. So I think in the long run, I will move a bit closer to the city. But I would say for those probably 2 years that I'm giving myself to figure out what my life's going to be about. Hey, what a time to decide on this. 42, golden age. Finally make up your mind, girl. Anyway, I hope something resonated with some of you in this video. Yeah, it's not what it used to be. You pick a profession, there's a job waiting for you at the other end. It doesn't seem to make sense who the people are who make the most money. It's definitely not the people who are doing the hardest work. And in a very selfish way, I feel like I would deserve a little bit of a respite, because I have worked really, really hard for many, many years, and I've done myself in a little bit with that. I would like to keep working, but I think it's time to work with my head rather than with, well, I've always worked with my head, but it's also been demanding physically. So, and I think maybe that is the right way to go about it. We'll see. I ramble and mumble. Anyway, if you have watched it to this bit, thank you so much. And yeah, if you would like to see follow-ups to this, do subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.